In the early hours of May the 1st, 2017, in the small town of Teedale, New Zealand, grandmother Roma Joseph was beaten and her house was set alight. Police believe that the community of Teedale holds the key to solving this heinous crime. Welcome to New Zealand Mysteries. Today we're going to look at who killed Roma Joseph.
Hi everyone, it's TJ. Welcome back to New Zealand Mysteries. It's awesome that you could be here for this case. We're going to start at Wikipedia and look at Teedale. So it is a small town in the Waikato region of the North Island of New Zealand, 50 kilometres southeast of Hamilton. The town has a population of 804, which is very small, and that's from the 2018 census. In the Māori language, Teedale means place of many cabbage trees. Now, I'm going to explain about some highways going through the town, and the reason I want to do that is I want to sort of describe all the places that people could go from this town. So Teedale is a major junction in the New Zealand State Highway network. Just south of the township is the intersection of State Highway 1 and State Highway 5, where traffic from Auckland and Hamilton on State Highway 1 split to go either to Rotorua on State Highway 5 or continue along State Highway 1 to Taupo and beyond to Napier, Palmerston North and Wellington. State Highway 27 splits off State Highway 1 in the north of the town, providing a route north to the Coromandel Peninsula and an alternative route to Auckland bypassing Hamilton. Pretty much that means that people can come and go to Teedale anyway, heaps of different routes. Teedale is primarily a farming town, but in recent years has begun to exploit the income that comes from being at a major road junction. Now let's take a look on Google Maps. Most of you will know that this is a map of the North Island of New Zealand, and if you see my big red, I was going to say it's a dot, but it's something anyway, here in the Waikato, this is where we look for the tiny town of Teedale, and we'll go in for a closer look to get a feeling of how this town, how small it really is. So we're getting down to the nitty gritty here, and I know guys I need a faster computer, but I can't, so we work with what we've got. But here it is, and you can see it's not a very big town, and it has the State Highway 1 going through it there, and this actually happened at Little Street in Teedale, which is here. It's got Station Street and Bear Street running on either side of it. Alright, let's get into it. First we're going to go to stuff.co.nz and a very good article written by Philippa Yeldon. It says brutal murder of Teedale grandmother Roma Joseph remains unsolved, and this is in 2018, so it was a year after. On a placid street in the bustling antique town of Teedale, there's a tugging sense of unease. No one likes to talk about what happened to Roma Joseph. Many of the ageing population that inhabit the pensioner flats, dotted along the short alcove a block back from State Highway 1, just can't stomach it. One woman says it's too emotional, you just try to forget it. Her hands tremble as she stands in the doorway looking at the remains of her neighbour's former home. The slightly built grandmother, Roma, who weighed no more than 48 kg, which is so small, was killed inside her rented Little Street home, where she lived alone in the early hours of May 1st, 2017. Her house was then deliberately set alight. 10 months on, Detective Senior Sergeant Matt Cranshaw, the Taupo Investigations Manager, said police have made significant progress piecing together what unfolded on that autumn morning. This was a cowardly crime, he said, and I absolutely agree with him. Absolutely disgusting. And we know that they have not found who was at fault here. She was violently killed in her own home, he says. Those responsible for this brutal murder need to be held to account, which is why we were making this video. Over the 303 days since the 58-year-old's death, a team of up to 25 officers have interviewed dozens of potential witnesses, residents, locals and those who knew Roma. Crenshaw said at the time he could not comment on any potential suspects or motives as not to prejudice the ongoing investigation, except to say police were keeping an open mind. He said, "We've done 9 months of investigation and covered a lot of ground. We've spoken to a lot of people, both witnesses and potential persons of interest. Some people have been eliminated from the inquiry." Roma, also known as Ruma Midwood, was badly beaten before the fire was lit, somewhere between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. on the Monday morning. Nearby neighbours heard a series of thumps and saw 2 people leaving her home. One was seen walking along Little Street away from the house and another by the front door. Shortly afterwards, a silver 4-door sedan reversed out Roma's driveway, went towards Bear Street. Then the fire took hold. By the time firefighters arrived, it had engulfed half the weatherboard home and Roma was discovered dead inside. From reading all the articles, I know that especially the older population of that small town were and still are really scared because nobody has been held to account, so they don't know where this person is or what happened. People were hesitant to speculate on who might be behind Roma's murder, instead saying they wanted to leave it to the police to do their job. Gaining closure was difficult when you looked out your window to see the decaying remains of Roma's home each day, but I do know now that a new home is being built. Very, very sad. One woman who has lived on Little Street for 40-odd years said Teedale was typically a quiet, safe town to live in. A lot of people do still feel frightened. She said maybe if it had been solved by now you'd be able to get on. You can't put it behind you. They need to answer for what they've done, and absolutely right. Now, there is a number on the bottom of this, but because it's a few years old, I'm not sure if that number is relevant, so I'm going to say the number for Crimestoppers, 0800 555 111. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, I will have the links and the numbers you can call in the description box below. If you are on podcast, I will put this information on the homepage of the podcast. We're looking at the nzherald.co.nz. Now, this is police investigating the brutal murder of much-loved Teedale grandmother. Say the 58-year-old was seriously assaulted before her house was deliberately set on fire. They're saying a person seen on CCTV footage walking on the main street in Teedale is now being sought by police in connection with Roma Joseph's violent death. She died in a fire at her Little Street Teedale home between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. on Monday, May the 1st, 2017. Now, it says here the case was featured on Police 10-7, but I think that was too far ago because I can't find that even with the links. But detectives released details of footage from the Caltex Teedale service station of a person seen walking north on State Highway 1 about 3:18 a.m. They are asking this person to come forward to see if they have information to assist the investigation. Detective said they aren't, or police said they're not suggesting that person was involved, but they may have some information that is useful. So we're going to have a very brief look, and if you look, you'd have to look very closely up into this sort of corner up in here, and as I play it, you'll briefly see someone walking across there, but indeed it is very, very hard to see. If you want a closer look, you could go to the link below and have a look, but I can't tell you there's a much better view. It's just a black figure. But if that was you, please contact the police and let them know. We're now going to another article by stuff.co.nz. Community holds key to solving grandmother's killing. Philippa Yalden wrote this, and it was May last year, so quite recent. And it's very, very sad, actually. Each night, Kirsty Joseph drifts off to sleep in her South Waikato home with an amethyst under her pillow. The precious stone, known to some for spiritual healing and calming, belonged to her mother, Roma Joseph. The pair bought it a few years back in a promotion at a local shop in the town of Tera, where her mother lived in a quiet alcove dotted with pensioner flats a block back from the bustling main road. It was one of the few items that she was able to salvage when she sifted through the bedroom and the burnt-out remains of the little street house where Roma was brutally assaulted and left for dead 3 years ago. Fire deliberately lit in the living area after what police described as a cowardly attack that May morning destroyed almost everything else the grandmother of 19 owned. I went in there and found an amethyst rock. She always used to sleep with it under her pillow, so I have that, she told Stuff, following the anniversary of her mum's death. It makes me feel closer to her. I've got photos from her bedroom which were untouched, a couple of ornaments, and that's about it. And that's the sad thing about fire, is it just destroys everything. Sometime on that chilly morning, thumping reverberated through the darkness. Roman, a slightly built woman weighing little more than 48 kg, was being violently assaulted inside her rental. Then the fire took hold. Whoever bashed the 58-year-old then set a fire inside the living area of the modest 2-bedroom weatherboard home before fleeing sometime between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. This is her daughter, Kirsty. Kirsty understands police have a suspect in her mother's callous and senseless death. Come forward, speak up. It can't be easy carrying this around, and maybe Mum can rest without it all being up in the air. So that's very interesting. The police have a suspect, and I suspect that they need this person to come forward, or at least they need someone to come forward with some information that can just end this case. 2 people were seen in the area at the time, one spotted walking along Little Street and another by the front door of Roma's house. Shortly afterwards, a silver 4-door sedan pulled away, gliding off towards Bear Street. Bay of Plenty Police District Crime Manager Detective Inspector Mark Loper said hundreds of hours had gone into canvassing the area, interviewing witnesses and reviewing evidence compiled in a 100-page report. He said, "We believe we have spoken to those persons seen in the area.